that is not how this was supposed to go.
To seeing that the life that I was creating was not a life that was sustainable, and it wasn't a life that was bringing me joy and fulfillment. Why is it not working for me the way that it's working for them? It really showed me how little self-worth that I actually had. Human design is a synthesis of a bunch of different sciences that gives you like your unique energetic blueprint. It combines like everyone's like, oh, so it's like horoscopes and astrology, and I'm like, that is a very basic version of what this is because energy has to be exchanged. I was like, I like that way of looking at sales. And I would get people to show up on calls, but they didn't take action on the things that I wanted them to. My business coach was like, we lost that narrative. And we're like, oh.
So that's good. I think I have a master generator on my hands. Not yet. Give me some more. Give me some more first and let me decide. You know what I mean? Is anybody looking? Hopefully not. You know? Welcome back to the Mommy Mogul Mastery Podcast. I am your host, Shawnee Faye, and I'm excited. I am here with Miss Diamond Drip. Okay, Miss Diamond. So she is amazing at helping you to really clarify who you are, right? And identify why you are doing all the things that you are doing, why it makes sense for you. So I'm going to let her explain a little bit more because she's very good at it. This is her thing. So Miss Diamond, welcome to the show and tell us a little about who you serve and what you do.
Thank you, Shadi. I'm so excited to be here with you. So, I am Coach Diamond Drip, and every single one of us has a unique energetic blueprint. It shows how our energy is designed to flow, how we're designed to make our best, most aligned decisions. And it gives you some insight into areas where you maybe have leaned into what we in human design call conditioning, whether that's from your family, from your friends, or the biggest one, society. And what I do is I help people. My heart and my soul, my passion are women, especially women with little people, to really discover who they are on an authentic, realistic level and get them from operating out of fear and self doubt and the shoulds and the have tos and all the things so that they can actually have fulfillment here in this lifetime.
Yeah, that seems to be a reoccurring theme. I actually just released an episode about that. Well, close to that, about like being authentic and some of that conditioning that happens, like those generational patterns that we really have to break. So I think this is a very unique perspective because that guest was actually a spiritual life coach, right? And so this will be a very unique perspective to have on the same, kind of a similar subject. So I'm excited to get into this. So tell me, like, what made you decide to even do this? What were you going through where you were like, I need this in my life? And then what was the point where you decided, oh, I need to help other people do this?
For sure. I love that question. So, I've been an entrepreneur for 4 years. The first two were in a product based business, which I always say allowed me to grow a successful business in the blissful ignorance of my own self worth. Because because when I participated in a clinical trial that used psilocybin, which is the active component in magic mushrooms, to actually heal my depression. I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 when I was 14, and so that trial, it helped me shed a lot of the weight that the depression, like the cloud, as I refer to it sometimes, it helped me shed the cloud, and it helped really open my eyes to seeing that the life that I was creating was not a life that was sustainable, and it wasn't a life that was bringing me joy and fulfillment. I like a year into running my first business is when I started Diamond Drip Consulting, which is my current business. And that was because I was in school pursuing my visual communications degree, and I was like, I can make some logos, I can design some websites. So I was doing, I was doing the product based business, and then I was doing that graphic design business. I was still in school, and I am a mom. And that trial showed me that like my businesses were running me and not the other way around.
And it's so easy to fall into that slope, right? That pit. You're just walking, minding your business. You're like, oh snap, like it's running me.
Exactly. So I was like, something has to change. And one of the things that I really started to take notice in was like in my product based business, I was coaching people to figure out like what their problems were so that I could recommend the specific things. And in my graphic design business, I was coaching people on marketing and brand strategy and then turning around and doing all of the work myself. And so
Yeah, that's the other side of the street. Like that's the other side that you fall into. They're like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's so good. Can you help me with that?" And then you end up doing it and you're like, "Oh, wait. That is not how this was supposed to go."
exactly. So when I had that like wake up call, I was like, okay, coaching is something that obviously is in me. So how do I streamline what I'm doing? And that was when I made the pivot into an online business model so I could just focus on coaching. And even though I had a successful business, it made me feel like an imposter because I was like, this is way different. Like the product based business, even in the graphic design business, like I could look at the rates of like what other people were charging. I could like do all the things and come up with this. But when it was just like, so people are just gonna talk to you and you're just gonna like help them with stuff. Like, and you're gonna charge how much for this? Like I became I became the product in a lot of ways. And that really showed me how little self worth that I actually had. And it forced me into a lot of the shoulding. So I ended up joining an online business coaching program that talked a lot about getting visible with your message and your mission and sales being spiritual, which was like a complete change and a welcome change because I used to work for a gym for 3 years. And I was the general manager. So I knew what salesy looked like, and I didn't want any parts of that. So when she was talking about like, you're helping people through a transformation and, life costs money, so energy has to be exchanged. I was like, I like that way of looking at sales. However, that program had a lot of one size fits all approaches and proven strategies and frameworks. So I would try some of the same things and I would get people to show up on calls, but they didn't take action on the things that I wanted them to. But we would get on these like weekly group calls and like Crystal's having a 6-figure launch. So and so just had like 25,000. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why is it not working for me the way that it's working for them? And it just like doubled down on the imposter syndrome. There were so many times where I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like, maybe there's a reason why
Yeah.
I,
That's just entrepreneurship too, right? Like we're just on this roller coaster, just trying to figure our lives out. Like we've taken this big step to do something that probably no one around us has done before. Like no one in our immediate. So that's also why we feel so scared because we don't really have a direct example of what this should look like and how exactly to do it. And so anytime, like I always like to say with imposter syndrome, you feel it because you're new at this thing. It is not that you are an imposter, right? You are not posing to be something that you're not. You're just so new at like some of the dynamics of it that it just feels like, oh my God, I should just go sit down in the corner somewhere because who do I think I am? You know what I mean? Is anybody looking? Hopefully not. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, but I totally get that. I totally get that. But it's just because you were new. You had come from product to moving into service, and it was like, oh, this is very different than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, you're right. I'm charging what for this? Like, do people really care about that? Like, would I pay that? And that's another thing, right?
yeah,
Like, would I pay that? If your pocket is not set up like that, you're like, there's no way people are going to pay this, and they will. And they will because of what you said, that transformation. So, sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
no, it was so needed though. Um, so yeah, so at a time in my personal journey and in my business journey, I was trying to figure out like what my business superpower was. And everyone always would say, like, your energy is so contagious. Like, I love your energy. And I was like, but I can't bottle that up and sell it to someone. So, and as much as I'd like to, As much as I'd like to, I can't teach people how to have my energy because I've tried that in my personal life. So it actually began to be something that frustrated me. Like I was beginning to see my energy as something that was outside of me. I was like, yeah, everyone loves this energy thing. However, like I need to figure out what my superpower is, like that I can like market and sell and things like that. And so at a time where I really needed it the most, someone asked me, "Do you know your energy type?" And I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Mm-mm, no." And she sent me this calculator, which it's on Jovian Archive, and so the whole like marketing business model is for you to pull your chart, and they first want you to like buy the 50-page report or whatever that's at the bottom. And I was like, I'm not about to buy a report for something that I don't know anything about. So,
Not yet. Give me some more. Give me some more first, and let me decide.
right? Which is why when I finally figured out how to put a calculator on my website, I was like, I'm not about to send people down this, but like, I'm gonna give them something. But I didn't have that, so I went to YouTube University. And I was like,
Girl, school of the hard knocks.
exactly. And I was like, what does it mean to be a generator in human design? And the first video that I watched, it was like, when you are doing work that you love, you generate so much energy that it literally bubbles up and spills out of you into the people who are around you, into the things that you're doing. And it's in your aura. You have this open and enveloping aura. And I was like, oh, that sounds like me. And everything that I found after that, from having emotional authority, like, having these strong emotional waves, which I was made wrong for because of the bipolar 2 disorder diagnosis, being a 5-1, which it's so funny. That YouTube University, right? Like 2 hours later down the rabbit hole that is human design on YouTube, I walked away with a lot of information. And that's actually the way that I interact with the world. When I don't understand something, I will investigate it, I will research it, which I learned is not everyone's design. I was like, everyone
You
does
must
this.
be a Virgo. Are you a Virgo? What?
Mm-mm-mm.
Girl, I'm a Virgo. That is all me. Like, I just need to know all the things. Do not try to limit me on information I need to know in order to make a wise decision.
Um, but yeah, so even understanding the 5-1 profile, it was like, oh, this is me. And not only is this me, like there are other people who resonate with this, and this is something that I can really like hone in on. Human design is a synthesis of a bunch of different sciences that gives you like your unique energetic blueprint. It combines like, everyone's like, oh, so it's like horoscopes and astrology, and I'm like, that is a very basic version of what this is, because it does combine astrology, astronomy, but it also pulls in quantum physics and the Kabbalah tree of life and the Chinese I Ching, to name a few. And what I love about human design is like, with the zodiacs and things, like people are like, oh, I'm a Taurus, so that means I have these certain characteristics, and not all of them fit, especially because we know that conditioning exists. But one of the things that I love about human design, because it synthesizes all of these different sciences into one unique blueprint, it's called the science of differentiation. And so it looks at how your energy, like even if you had the same birth date as somebody like years apart, like it would look very different. And so it does pull in some of those elements, but it also gives you that uniqueness, versus like the generalizations that come with some of the sciences by themselves.
Now, does your energy, does it like shift and change? Because we talked a little bit about conditioning, right? So, like, where does this energy come from, and does it change? Like, I want to know more.
Yeah, so your actual blueprint does not change. So at your time, and that's why when you pull your chart, the time of birth is important, because at your exact time of birth, you were imprinted with I'm about to get sciencey. You were imprinted with neutrinos, which are like these particles from the planets, and they help form your personality. So that exact time of birth on your birth date is like your personality side. 88 days prior to that date, you were imprinted with another set of neutrinos, which forms your unconscious self. The things that, they kind of are just there and you kind of know they're there, but like it's kind of like your underlying script. And so, right, it's based on the planets. So some of that information comes from the planets as they move in our cosmos. So your unique energetic blueprint does not change. However, as the planets continue to move and shift and change, they activate like different gifts, different gates in us that give us access, like temporary access. Like I go live every week. Sometimes we have 2 transits in 1 week. So whenever we get a new transit, I always try and go live and talk about the energies. And so, like on the 11th, we just entered into a new transit, and we're having the energy in our atmosphere until the 17th. And so the sun is gate 4, but the really important one I think is gate 49, which is the gate of principles. It's the strength of principles. And so it is causing people to look at, especially if they have the other end of it, it's causing people to look at like, okay, this is what I need on the material plane. And how are my relationships supporting me in getting the things that I need here in this lifetime? And it's causing them to look at their relationships and being like, are you here for yourself? Or are you here to help me? Is this a community vibe? Is this a partnership? And I didn't even realize it was happening until I like did the research on the transit. I honor my boundaries, and so when we entered into the transit, it was like the middle of the night. So I was like, okay, I didn't get it on the 11th, but I got it on the 12th. And I had a beta client, have a beta client who, back when I wasn't sure of my worth, I was like, okay, like I'll do this for free, like we'll do this contract and things. And so because, there's this saying like when you have skin in the game, you take it more seriously.
Yes, people who pay attention. Yes.
And she is a perfect example of that because throughout our contract, she has rescheduled, she has canceled. She's been like, I'm going to ATL, I need to cancel. And I'm like, I'm not like this particular time around, I was like, I have these slots available this week. If those don't work for you, I'm not like basically I was like, I can't bend over backwards just because you picked this time to be our weekly meeting. Like it wasn't like I was like, this is where you have to show up. You picked this. You said this worked for you. And so it caused me to have to honor my boundaries, honor my principles around valuing my time. And I normally don't have access to that gate. So when I realized that that was what was happening, I was like, ooh, I like this. I hope this
So
stays on.
what like triggers these different gates then? So like how do I know when like my gate 49 is going to open? Like what like what determines when these different gates open?
Yeah, so the biggest determining factor is the sun and the earth gates. Those change so constantly but like, for example, so in human design, I don't have a defined heart, ego, center. I have one gate open, one gate defined there, and it's not always the most straightforward gate. But what comes with having an undefined or open ego heart center is that struggle with self-esteem, self-worth, thinking the actual not self question that comes out of it is, do I think I have something to prove? And so right now, well, actually for like the past 3 or 4 weeks, it's been a while. I've been appreciative. Um, there, there's been an activation in one of the energy centers that actually helps me like connect. So each gate has like a harmonious gate that is on the other side in a different energy center. And when they actually connect and meet, that's what causes centers to be defined. And so the gate that I don't have is connected, and it has been. And one of my mentors, she always says, because she also doesn't, like 53% of the population doesn't have this defined. And so she always says that whenever she's rewriting her offers, she always looks to see if she has definition in her heart ego center so that she can have the value of the transformation that she provides versus like shooting herself or being like, I think this sounds nice, because that's what I was doing. I was like, everyone's all about these like triple digit numbers, like 222, and and I had originally, when I was redoing my offers, like I put that, and my business coach was like, "You charging too little," and I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, do some math and figure out like your expenses, figure out figure out the household versus the business, and then come back to me." And I did the math and I looked at my time and I was like, "Oh, yeah, you were right."
That's so funny that you even bring that up because like I did some math the other day and I was like, wait, hmm. So for every one client, like it's 3 months of my life, but I don't. This is that's only covering 1 month's worth of rent. like you really do have to think that way as a business owner. Like, okay, well, what are my expenses, and then like work your way back from there, rather than well, I think this is what people can afford to pay, or this feels comfortable for whom? Who does it like it feel comfortable for them? And they getting all this good out of you. And I'm pretty sure that you over deliver when you're having conversations with people. Because here we are just having a conversation for a podcast, and I'm like, ooh, that's like it's so much information, you know what I mean? So I can imagine that you over deliver. So for $222, no baby. I'm so glad that you have made that adjustment. Oh, and before I forget, so you did mention earlier that there's something that they can take on your website, right? So what is that? So let everybody know, and we'll put it down in the description box below. But make sure you mention it again so they know.
I appreciate you. So yeah, it's called the actual chart is called a body graph chart. I just have it on my website as Pull Your Chart. So you enter in that information, like I said, your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth, and it will give you your energetic blueprint, which quite honestly, it is a little bit overwhelming when you first look at it because there's a lot to take in. There's like some numbers on the side. You've got like this person looking thing in front of you. You've got some stuff with colors, some stuff with it, without it. You've got arrows. Like it's a whole situation. And that's one of the reasons why like it lights me up so much, because the investigator in me is like, I want to know everything about all of these things. And I'm getting close. Um, but on that, once they pull their chart, it actually will give them like what it means to be whatever their energy type is. Each energy type has a specific strategy that they're designed to like interact with life. So for generators, for example, which like 70% of the population are generators, our strategy is to respond. So in almost all of the energy types have some form of waiting involved, which is why it's so difficult for us generators, because we're like, I have this dream, this goal. I have to I have to figure out how to do it. And it's not that you don't have to figure out how. Like, of course, set smart goals, of course, put your intentions into the universe, but like constantly initiating and like burning your energy versus like putting your intentions into like your networks, putting your intentions on a social media, building a brand so that people can find you and offer you the opportunities looks a lot different from being like, oh my gosh, I have to go down all these rabbit holes and fill out all these applications and doing like, and really just like burning yourself out. So it tells them their energy type, their strategy. There are 7 different authorities. Something like 50% of the population has emotional authority, which means that it's best if we, at a minimum, sleep on things before we make really big decisions in our lives, which is hard because we live in a society that wants answers right now, by now. And like
That's a very,
very,
that's a very valuable lesson to learn, though. And I didn't always have that. I'm getting better at it, but sometimes, like even if I get an email, I feel like this impulse to like, oh, I have to respond right now, and I'm like, no, just think about it for a little bit. Especially if it's an email that rubs me the wrong way. Like I want to clap back immediately, but I'm like, no, 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 just sleep on it, think it through, and then respond. So I found that there's just so much like um, power in just being able to like, I don't have to answer that right now. I don't have to address that. So I appreciate that you brought that up.
and that allows me to go into my random tip. So when I learned, because I had this thing with emails as well, as business owners typically do, I learned um, emails weren't designed to be responded to right away. Like somewhere along the way, we we lost that narrative, and we're like, oh, like so and so sent me this email, like that means they were thinking of me. Like literally, it was designed like in a work system so that like people wouldn't have to like get up from their desk, or like if somebody was away, like it would be there when they got back, and the other person could like go on with their life. Like it was never designed the way that we put pressure on ourselves to
Yes.
use
Oh
it.
my gosh, that's so true. It is not instant messaging. You know what I mean?
You know? But that aside, the chart tells them their authority, their profile, and then if they want, there is a 7-page ebook called "Improve Your Health by Your Design." So based on the custom chart that they pull, it'll give them specific strategies on how they sleep best, how they handle overwhelm and pressure, and how their immune system was designed. So they can always download that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure that we have all the links for that because that's good. And so, and you've talked a bit about like how it really helps with the business. Like you mentioned, your business coach, and like she just makes sure that she's in the right place before she makes these decisions. So, how has it specifically helped you in your business?
Oh, yeah. So definitely with imposter syndrome, like that's always constant comparison. I did this thing called the Leadership Experience Tour back in September, and part of did you speak on today's that time? I think so. Part of that cohort, there was somebody else who spoke on stage, and she's a confidence coach, and so she's very confident. Uh, and so, what is she? Confidence and authenticity, like strategist or something, is what she calls herself. And so she has like this big curly hair. She's got like she's like a whole vibe. And like the second time that because I went back in March to help out on the tour. I didn't speak on stage, but I went back to help out with some of the tech things. And she also came because it's always great for branding photos. And so she was just talking about like she's in Florida, I'm in Maryland, which I mean it's debatable which one is nicer. I mean they're about to be swallowed up at any time by the ocean, but
You know, I am from Florida. Immediately in my mind, I'm like, well, they are both nice. You know what I mean? Like, I've been to both places.
But I think there's a more relaxed vibe in Florida for sure, like especially with so many people
I
go
don't
down
know if
there.
relax is the thing. Maybe because South Beach, like, because right now I actually live in Georgia, and I moved here because it was getting that traffic. I was like, "Ma, I gotta go." And she was like, "No, don't leave." But yeah, the traffic was ridiculous. So if you're like working and living there, I don't know how relaxed it is. But
Yeah.
if you're visiting, if you're on vacation, like it's amazing. Because I thought Maryland was like real chill and real relaxed, but I was on vacation, so
Yeah, vacation mode is different. So regardless, she's in Florida. She's in Florida, and she would tell us like how she just has these like she wakes up at like 5 and she goes to the gym, and she like eats, she makes her smoothie and she like eats all of this food that's like good for her, and then she like moseys onto the computer around 9 to check her email, like this whole, and I'm like, and like I know the way she like structures her time, like she doesn't structure it in a way where like she's in back to back to back meetings. Like she sets her prices where the value of the transformation she provides. And I was looking at her at that time, and I was like, how do you do that? Like how do you do these things so effortlessly? And I'm like grinding all the time, it seems like.
like, where are you
It's
finding these extra hours in the day? Tell me. I want to
yeah,
know.
yes,
You know what I mean? Tell me your ways. Stop gatekeeping.
So I asked her, I was like, do you mind if I look at your energy? And she was like, people, of course, they love learning about themselves as well. So she was like, yeah, sure. And I found out that she's a projector. And I was like, okay. So projectors are technically a non-energy type. Generators and manifesting generators, we're like the energizer bunnies. We can like work, go. And like if we're doing work that we love it. We love the work, hustle, whatever, as long as it's bringing us satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's because we have a defined sacral. So it's like our life force energy. Projectors, reflectors, and manifestors do not have a defined sacral. So the not self question that comes out of that is, do I know when enough is enough? And it's really important for them to conserve their energy. And so for projectors specifically, like their purpose is to be like our guides. They can see big picture kind of deal, which is why she is great as a coach. And their strategy is just, do work that, like, do the things that you love, take care of yourself, like master your craft, etc. And then you will receive invitations into things. And so like their strategy is to wait for the invitation. So it's not aligned for her to be, in Kajabi creating a bunch of landing pages and doing a bunch of stuff that like I find joy in, but it gets irritating sometimes. Like that's not aligned for her. And so when I saw, like it began to be one of those things where I was like, there would have been a time where I would have been like jealous. I would have constantly compared myself. I would have like made myself wrong because I don't just ease through the day like that. But on an energetic level, like she couldn't sustain the work days that I can sustain because I have that energy. Like she would burn herself out.
Oh, that's so good. So, like, she is great at what she does, and that is just her energetic sphere to be in. But you are great in your space because that is what you are energetically built for. I like that.
Yes. So it creates that understanding. And then just on a personal level, because I know that's business, like imposter syndrome. I can name a bunch of different examples. But I know one thing I wanted to make sure that I mentioned is that you can look at your child's energetic blueprint. And so I'm a generator, and I do not have a defined heart ego center, as I mentioned, and I'm emotional. My daughter is a manifesting generator, which means that she has her throat is defined and it connects to one of her motor centers. So she has, in quantum human design, manifesting generators are called time benders because they have the gift of efficiency. So like whereas generators, we have to be very much in our process. We're like, okay, in order to get from X to Z or A to Z is probably a better example, then we have to do like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like all the way till whatever. And so manifesting generators, they have the gift of like coming in and they're like, okay, that's a lot. So I think 3 is really just a suggestion. 6 and 7, we could tweak these a little bit to make it better. And they're actually aligned, which is why it's really important for them to slow down at least a little bit so that they don't have to go back like and repeat stuff because they missed a step. This is something that we struggle with. Here's my daughter, 7. She's always missing steps. She's always thinking that she has the gift of efficiency. And I'm like, you haven't necessarily honed that craft yet. You're not quite, I know that it's in you now, but we're not quite there yet. But she has a defined heart, which me and her dad do not. Both of us do not. And before we knew that she was literally designed differently from us, we're like, how does this child have so much, like, getting her to eat vegetables sometimes? Like, I was like, my mom and my grandparents, like, everybody would be able, because I thought I had something to prove. She's like, I have nothing to prove.
I think I have a master generator on my hands.
And she will just not like, oh my, perfect example. We went to King's Dominion for her birthday, and she said like she's old enough, tall enough to ride some of the rides, and we were trying to get her to like get on these really fun rides. We're like, you're tall enough, you can do it. And she's like, I want to ride the Ferris wheel. I want to ride like whatever baby things that you could ride at like the carnival. And we're like, so we came all the way to Kings Dominion so that you could do carnival things. But it was like her birthday, so we couldn't really
Yeah,
fight
it's
her
one of those
necessarily.
things.
But we tried. We really like we tried to like milk like things that would have worked on us. Like, oh, you're a baby. Like, you're gonna just not ride the roller coasters. And she was like, no.
I will not. And, but I kind of love that for her because I kind of love that because I have an 11 and a 12-year-old, and like, whoa, Lord, I keep saying that, and they are going to get very upset with me. They're 12 and 13 now. My bad. Mommy need to catch up with the months. So my 12-year-old, she is very much like, she would just say whatever she feels. She is gonna do what I mean. Not she's not disrespectful. You know what I mean? She's not disrespectful. So within reason, but just like so sure of herself. And I'm like, yo, I wish that I was like that because some of the things that I am like fighting, like some of those limiting beliefs and like some of the things that I'm working through and healing through at my big age, I'm like, you know what? If I was like that, we would be at a whole different place. But I mean, everybody's got their path. Everything happens for a reason. So I am grateful for the path that I'm on now. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for keeping me together. But yeah, like so tell me, right? Because now this has got me thinking. When is a good age to maybe test that for your children to like see one what your energetic path is or your energetic makeup is, and then what theirs is. Like, when is a good age to test that?
So I pulled charts for infants. So the creative of human design, his name is Ra Uruhu. He's passed now, the founder. Um, he he had this saying, which he would say, adults can use human design to help them shed some of their conditioning. It's a longer feat for sure, especially depending on like when you discover it. Like, I've been doing human design with my 80-year-old aunt. Her conditioning is thick.
Yeah, well, 80 plus years.
So
Like, no, baby, that's not what I do. That's not what grandma does. Like, but grandma can do that, but she doesn't. Yeah.
So he says, like, it can be used for adults, and it's great if we align with our true selves, but it's really for the children so that we don't screw them up like we were screwed up. So even if I was my business partners with a local nonprofit, and so they have these community potlucks, and so there was this mom who she brought her baby. I was like, "How old is your baby?" And he was like 9 months, and I was like, "Mind if I look at his energy?" And so, like, of course, an infant's not going to understand their strengths and things, but it can even be important to know that your child is emotional early on. It can be important to know if, because in Gene Keys, which is another one of the modalities that I work with, to know the genetic wound of your child and how they have an emotional manifestation, like a reaction to that wound. Like, it can be helpful to know that they are emotional and that when whatever this wound is triggered, they react in anger or aloofness. So, any age.
And I think so. Here's what's coming up for me because I know that there's going to be someone because on this podcast, almost every episode, somehow God makes his way into the conversation. And I know someone's probably going to be like, "Oh, but I don't subscribe to that because whatever." Now, I don't agree with that because I believe that God is just so good and he is so smart that yes, he could make all these things happen where you are uniquely you and then this is what can like help you identify. So I believe, all right, I'm just going to put that out there. But what's coming up for me is that someone is going to say, I don't know that this is something that I could benefit from. But you remember when there was a book that came out, like love languages, right? Mm-hmm. 5 love languages. And everybody was running to read this book because I want to know how me and my man gonna connect and all these other things, right? And so they were running to do that to find this thing out. I think that what you were doing is so good because it is allowing you to understand the people in your life in a really intimate and deep way, especially your children. So go read Love Languages if you want to understand your man. But you know, what I mean? But if you would, my point is, if they would run to read that, then they should be open minded to. I mean, for anybody who's not, I mean, maybe everybody who's listening is like, "Girl, who you talking to?" Because I'm all in. But I imagine there's someone
Yeah.
who is not, and they should be. They should be open to it because I think that understanding your children and helping to break some of those generational patterns is powerful. Like we're raising the next generation, you know, and we're in business because we want to be successful, we want to have impact. And so why be doing all these great things for other people and not doing all that we can at home? So,
I have a couple things for that, if I can. A couple things. So the aforementioned 80-year-old aunt, she is, I like to consider myself more spiritual than religious, but she is very much into religion. And I remember, I forget what it was we were talking about, but I think it might have been around her incarnation cross. And I had said something about like, because you know, some people who are religious, they don't believe in like past lifetimes, reincarnation, things like that. And so, you know, depending on where you fall, I mean, human design is just going to say, you know, what the information is. So, like left angles, we're here to clean up karma from past lifetimes. Right angles are here to have a personal journey and create karma for like future lifetimes. And so I think it was somewhere around that. And basically what I said to her, because she almost looked like she was like challenging me a little bit. And like basically what I said to her was like, I was like, at the end of the day, religion is a belief system. Like if you really think about it, like, and I had to bring up her as an example. I was like, you were raised Methodist Baptist. Somewhere along the way, you've had new beliefs, and then you changed and you went to Episcopalian. You had new beliefs again, and now you're Catholic.
yeah.
Like it's
Oh
a belief
wow. From
system.
Methodist Baptist to Catholic. Wow. Okay, that's a shift.
That's what I'm
That's a
saying.
shift. Yeah.
Yeah, and so even to that point, like I'm in this law of attraction group, and one of the things that the host of the group, she always says, like we are these divine beings, and they reference the Bible a lot, but even with like those references, she even talks about how like a lot of people, because of the way that it's taught in churches, like we have divine cosmic creative power. Like a lot of the things that happen in the Bible, like people are like, oh, that happened way back when I couldn't turn, you know, water into like all of the stuff. And it's like literally that's a belief that you have. Like you are putting those limitations on yourself to say like, oh, that happened back in like 1880. Like I couldn't do that. Like that's a
And then why couldn't you, right? Like why couldn't you? Because truthfully speaking, right? Like we're supposed to be more advanced now. So if they were doing it back then, why can't you do it now? Like surely there's some kind of I don't know what the way is because like I mentioned
right.
in another podcast, Jesus was walking on water. I have not figured that out. I don't know, but there, you know, I'm just saying it's possible that you can do these things, and you're right. You're just setting those limiting beliefs on yourself. You're telling yourself you cannot do it. I used to do that about math, right? I homeschool my kids now, and I was very, you know, nervous to do that because oh my gosh, I'm not great with math, but I was feeling called to homeschool them, and so I had told myself all that time, like, I'm not good with math. I'm not good with math. I'm not good with math. And so I sucked at math. Now I have no choice because I am very intentional about y'all gonna be somebody in this world. Okay. And so I have to know what I'm talking about. And somehow, just because I've opened my mind to either it's gonna get done or it's gonna get done, I understand math like I never misunderstood it, you know? And it's just like, wow, just that little shift. Just that little shift. Like if you believe that you can do a thing, then you can do a thing. If you keep telling yourself that you can't do a thing, then you can't. You know, like when my kids say, "Oh, mommy, it's hard." It's now it is. You know what I mean? Because you just said that. Could have been easy. You know what I mean? We could have just got this over with. So yeah, that's yeah, I think shifting mindsets. Well, here, look at that. You said that you had started as a mindset and a business coach, and here you are. Here we are talking about mindset. Well, and all of it like plays together too. All of it's
Yeah.
very important together. Um, so I want to ask you, like, what is your favorite part about what you do? Like, what's that moment when you're talking with the client and you're like, ah, this is why I do it? What's that moment?
Uh, well, my favorite part honestly starts before I even like really talk to them necessarily. So I have an app on my phone. Like people pull their charts on my website, and in readings I do that. But like if I'm out and about, like I took myself to a CEO lunch like a few weeks back, and I really just love the energy of my waitress. So I was like, "Do you know your time of birth?" And I pulled her energy, and my favorite part is like I know that human design is a science of differentiation, and every time I'm going to get a different chart, but my favorite part is just seeing the differences, like seeing what similarities we have, seeing what their strengths are, and even like I've gotten used to telling people, I'm like, okay, I'm going to nerd out for like 30 seconds and I'm just going to say a bunch of things that you don't understand, and then I'll go back and I'll explain it. But but yeah, but I think my favorite part second to that is finding people who, like I said, they have actually it's finding out whether or not they have emotional authority or they're a non-emotional one of the other six. Because with emotional authority, I'm like, hey, I get it. I see you. We are here with the emotional waves. And I'm able to give them insights on how I've handled my emotional authority now that I'm aware. Even if they're not emotional, I learned that even if you don't have a defined solar plexus, you still take like just because you don't have something defined, it just means you don't have an energetic buffer there. So whereas like people who have that center defined, they put out energy. Like if you don't have that buffer, you take in energy and then it becomes amplified in you. And so my aunt has a completely open solar plexus. And it was funny because when I pulled her chart, I was like, it says you're non emotional and you one of the most emotional people I know. I was like, are you sure you gave me the right time of birth? But then as I understood more, like, these people are very empathic. Like from young ages, like they're said to be the emotional children because they can't separate what emotions are theirs and what emotions they're taking in from their environment. And so consequently, sometimes they are labeled as emotional. They do have a short fuse. And so like I think my favorite part, second to pulling and seeing the individuation, is like helping them understand that particular center.
Mm. Okay, I know we gotta wrap up because we got a hard stop, but this could have been definitely like a part one and a part two. So interesting. I'm so glad that you were able to make the time to do this. This was very very interesting, and I hope that people are taking away like how learning more about themselves and really understanding why they function, how they're functioning, can help them not only in their business but also in their family life. You know, help them with their children, all the things. Um, so, yes, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being here. Any last nuggets that you want to leave with people before we got to go?
Yeah, so I I am a part of a anthology, and so that book is launching on September 20th. So I'm very excited. And I finally can have this as a quote because this is usually the nugget that I leave. So it is: the limit does not exist, but fear and self doubt will make you believe that it does. And so if you can figure out a way to shift your perspective and step beyond those limitations, the amount of joy, satisfaction, fulfillment, success, all of the things, like it'll surprise you 1000%.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, for anyone listening, make sure that you check our description box below. If you're listening on wherever the podcast is, we'll put it in the description box. If you are watching us on YouTube, which I hope you are, because we really want to grow our YouTube family, then make sure that you subscribe and do all the things, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye.